Aidan Roberts officially proposes V17 or 9A for his first ascent, Spots of Time, and Will Bosi wastes no time in beginning to project it. We also have a first ascent to talk about from Niky Ceria, and on the sport climbing side of things, Anak Verhoeven has sent her first 9B or 515B, and actually she sent it twice. You'll see what I mean in a second. And that only scratches the surface of all of the exciting climbing news that we have to cover today. My name is August. Welcome to August Climbing. If you're a regular channel viewer, you may have noticed a lull in recent uploads on this channel, and that's because my family and I just went through an international move. We are excited to be back in the US for a while now, though we're still getting settled in, so my background may be in flux for the time being. At any rate, taking a brief break from YouTube was healthy for me. Breaks position me to avoid burnout and be able to continue delivering great content to you over the long term. And following that time away, I am genuinely excited to be back at it. So let's jump right in to talk about Aidan Roberts and Spots of Time. After taking ample time for reflection and initially announcing this send through the Careless Talk Climbing podcast, Aidan has now shared additional details about Spots of Time on his Instagram page. For background, this climb is located in the Lake District in the UK. In regards to the name, on May 23rd, Aidan shared this quote, "There are in our existence spots of time." Aidan went on to say, "Written just minutes away from my childhood home, Wordsworth reflects on distinct, memorable moments which represent and embed life's learnings over larger expanses of time." Aidan apparently felt that this quote and concept from the English poet Wordsworth to be quite a fitting name for this boulder problem. Then on May 29th, Aidan shared further about a proposed grade for Spots of Time, saying, "So I can only share my opinion based on my own experience. Indeed, most of my time climbing here was solitary, and I slightly lack input from others. I will, however, propose the grade of 9A, or V17, feeling that it compares in difficulty to others which I have tried, and harder than the confusing, blurry pot of 8C+, which would be V16 lines I have sampled. At this level, where style becomes specific and finer details so important, it feels at best a good guess, and I feel open to be humbled by missed methods or simple overconfidence in my own ability." I appreciate Aidan proposing a grade here to give us an idea of where this climb might stack up among the world's hardest boulders. At the same time, he acknowledges it as a good guess and seems quite open to additional input as more climbers get on it. Aidan went on to say, "At the time, this was certainly my longest project to date. The final try was not so far from perfect. With just a little left in the tank, it feels like I've got trickier things still in me somewhere." I love that Aidan is anticipating the possibility of something even harder. Perhaps he'll bring us the world's first V18 or 9A plus one day. But for now, we have this amazing new line, and it's already attracting attention from Will Bosi. On May 23rd, Will posted a video on his YouTube channel showing his first proper session on Spots of Time. Though not a live stream, his video had similar vibes to his Burden of Dreams projecting sessions, filled with Will's signature optimism and excitement after every bit of progress. His goal for the session was to try out all 6 moves of Spots of Time. He was indeed able to dispatch all the moves individually, except the final left-hand throw to the lip, though he did get pretty close to sticking that one as well. In the video, Will compared Spots of Time to Burden of Dreams, noting that since each individual move is so hard, it will be quite difficult to link them all together. In the comments section, I asked Will, "I'm curious, going into these initial sessions on a new project, do you have mixed feelings? Like you want to make progress quickly, but you also hope it'll be a hard project that requires a good fight?" Will responded, "That's a good question. I always want both, I think, which means however the session goes, I will normally walk away happy." Now, that's a great piece of mindset for every climber. If you make some progress, no matter how small, that's reason to celebrate. And if you don't make as much progress as you were hoping, That just means it's a hard project worth coming back to. Speaking of hard V17 or 9A projects, Ruana recently released a Megatron project update on his YouTube channel. For background, Megatron is located in Colorado in the United States. In the video, Drew talks about and shows a really good attempt he had in February, calling it the best session he ever had on Megatron. For the first time, he linked every single hard move on the bottom crux and took it all the way through Tron, the upper section of this boulder, basically sending the boulder from 3 moves in. Drew noted in the video that he was really excited about this progress on the one hand, but on the other hand, he wished he had started just a few moves lower. Had he linked it all together from 3 moves lower, that would have meant a completed project. Drew also noted in the video that he's got some other priorities in life, like finishing up college, a very important priority indeed. So let's see how much time he's able to put into this project through the remainder of 2024. But regardless, Drew Ruana is certainly showing himself to be the strongest contender to repeat Sean Rabitu's Megatron. Now let's talk about some Finnish bouldering for a moment. Of course, you know about Burden of Dreams V17 or 9A, so we'll start there. Sean Bailey shared a post recently sharing about his mini trip to Finland and sharing some new footage of his attempts on Burden of Dreams. Here he is linking the middle section of the boulder all the way to the top, and there's a clip of Sean sticking the first move as well. A pretty successful trip if you ask me, and he shares that he's getting psyched to go back in the fall. A bunch of people got really close to sending Burden of Dreams this spring, so it'll be exciting to see what happens later this year. Also climbing in Finland recently was Niky Ceria, and I've got 2 new sends to show you from Niky. The first one is called Circus Elephant Syndrome, and it was first ascended by Nalle Hukkataival in October of 2011. At the time, Nalle proposed hard 8B plus or V14 for this boulder problem. On May 29th, Niky shared in an Instagram post that he had some history with this boulder. He badly injured himself on this climb back in 2017. Now, 6.5 years later, here he is standing atop the boulder with a send. But this was not Niky's only project in Finland. Here's another one from June 3rd, Pneuma, one of Finland's longest and best projects, 3 seasons to visualize, multiple sessions to try, 1 instant to fulfill. This was formerly known as the Lohja or Lohja project, and Niky Ceria has made the first ascent, calling it Pneuma. From what I've seen, Niky Ceria chooses not to propose grades for his climbs, but this certainly appears to be in that upper tier of difficulty in bouldering, and what a beautiful looking line as well. In a second post, Niky shared, the Lohja project became familiar in 2019 when I first saw a photo of Nalle Hukkataival trying this amazing shield. The photo was taken by Marko Sivinen, and in 2021, this was the first project where he pointed me at. So pretty cool to see Niky Ceria finish off this long-standing project. Now let's talk about some other notable bouldering ascents, and we'll try to go rapid fire to keep this video to a reasonable length. Solly Kemball Dorey has made the 3rd ascent of Isles of Wonder Sit, a V16 or 8Z plus boulder located in the UK. This was a first ascent by Aidan Roberts in 2022. The second ascent was made by Will Bosi in 2023. At the time, Will found a new beta with a higher heel hook and felt the grade was thus closer to V15 or 8C. Solly, however, has concurred with Aidan's original proposed grade of V16. He described his battle with this climb on social media, saying, "The war is finally over, a 1.5 years of training, 3-month-long trips, the last 2 being cut short due to injuries, multiple different replicas, and true mental warfare." For another 3rd ascent, we have David Fitzgerald climbing Big Z, a V16 or 8C plus boulder located in the US. This was a first ascent by Sean Rabitu in 2020, with a second ascent from Matt Fultz earlier this year. David had this to say on Instagram. I first tried back in 2021, and although I took many long breaks away from the boulder, the spells of effort I gave over the years were intense. By far my longest chapter to date, a chapter that sparked so much drive and reason to improve that closing it now feels both surreal and bittersweet in a way. Here is a bouldering second ascent from Jorge Diaz Rullo, who more recently has been known for his 9B plus sport climbing sentence. But this one is called Muerte por Asfixia V16 or 8C plus, his hardest bouldering ascent to date. This boulder is a recent first ascent from Pablo Zamora, and Jorge concurred with Pablo's proposed grade, saying this on Instagram: about the grade, I am aware that part of its difficulty is about not doing dab on the stone. This gives me a bitter taste because I know that the difficulty doesn't come all from the moves themselves, but it still seems to me something original and special about this boulder. Now we'll go even more rapid fire with several V15 or 8C bouldering sets. Despite poor weather conditions in Ticino, Switzerland this season, Jibby Webb announced sends of Eye in the Sky and Solar Plexus, both of which were bouldering problems put up by Giuliano Cameroni. And speaking of Giuliano, he recently announced on social media the first ascent of Third Eye, what he described as the direct line of Eye in the Sky, involving, among other things, a sideways double clutch dyno to the jug. I look forward to seeing that uncut footage on Mellow Climbing soon. And Florian Weintes has sent La Force Tranquille in Magic Wood, Switzerland. Florian described this boulder on social media saying, "The crimpy test piece in the middle of the wood. A nice set of tiny edges and a techie heel hook in the bottom section makes this one special." Then we've got Sam Sin with Paint It Black in Colorado in the US. This is a Daniel Woods first ascent established back in 2012, and Sam had this to say about the ascent: "The stress that I felt before and the need to do the climb fell away, and I was able to put her down. It meant a lot because I was able to achieve something near my limit without taking myself too seriously." Now some exciting V14 or 8B plus sends. Here's someone we've been talking a lot about lately. Fresh off a send of The Boss, another V14 or 8B plus, Shauna Coxsey has sent yet another V14, this time in Switzerland. The boulder is called Hazel Grace and was first ascended by Giuliano Cameroni in 2017. Shauna has now made the female first ascent of this block, saying, "This line is truly majestic and I honestly cannot believe I pieced it together yesterday. Last day of the trip, suboptimal conditions, but a magical moment let this one flow. So freaking proud to say I've done this." Shauna also alluded to a sit start to this boulder that she wouldn't be able to get out of her mind. Intriguing. We have another female first ascent from Melissa Leneve. This is Dagger V14 or 8B plus. This ascent occurred back in January of 2023, but was only recently announced by Melissa on Instagram, where she said, "I know the plus is more or less in debate, but I decided to tell what I felt on this climb. Moves are very physically and partially reachy for smaller sizes." Melissa also noted that she hadn't talked about this send up until now due to various potential plans for the footage, but definitely an awesome send that I'm glad we got to see. And one more piece of bouldering news for you. Max Milne has flashed the Ace 8B or V13. This is an iconic Jerry Moffat bouldering problem located in the UK, and Max shared this on Instagram: "I've dreamt about it for years and believed that I had it in me, but if I'm being honest, I still can't believe it just happened. Words can't express how good it felt to build something up so big in my head, lock in, execute, and stand on top of this one." Now on to some sport climbing route news. Stefano Ghisolfi dropped a video on his YouTube channel showing some insane progress on Adam Andres Silence 9C or 515D in Flatanger, Norway. This was from his trip in September, October of 2023, at which time he completed the famous crux sequence of Silence. something that no one else has been able to do, well, except Adam Ondra, of course. Stefano has also reached 100K subscribers on YouTube. Congrats, Stefano. And upon reaching that goal, he released uncut footage of his Excalibur 9B Plus or 515C ascent. I will link to both of these videos in the description. Speaking of Excalibur, Jana Svecova is out in Italy projecting it. In a video recently published on her YouTube channel, Jana talked about the similarities between Excalibur and one of her other projects, Terra Nova, Ondra's V16 or 8C Plus Boulder that has yet to be repeated. So these appear to be two very complementary projects to work on side by side. And post-finger injury, Jana is climbing very well. She reported being able to make all but one of the individual moves on Excalibur and is working out her micro beta to prepare for making bigger links in the future. I will link to Jana's videos of her projecting Excalibur. Definitely go check those out and be sure to subscribe to her YouTube channel as well. And here is a 9B or 515B first ascent in Utah Hills in the US. This is from Jonathan Segrest reporting on Instagram recently. After weeks and weeks of effort, I finally climbed the first ascent of Animology. I bolted this route in March and started piecing together parts of it in early April. Segrest described the climbing on this line as unforgiving, varied, and super bouldery. And we've got another 9B or 515B from Anak Verhoeven. It's called La Planta de Shiva, located in Spain. And on Instagram, Anak had this to say, "Have I really just set my first 9B? A dream come true, which hasn't fully sunk in yet. Yesterday, May 15th. But this was not the end of the story. Just a few days later, she shared, "Just sent La Planta again, but without knee pads. A personal challenge because I knew I could, and because the first ascent of La Planta de Shiva in 2011 had also been done without pads, so I just wanted to try." Just wow. At times, knee pads have been controversial in climbing, but in this case, Anak opted for a second attempt. She ended up sending that one as well, without knee pads, in the same style as the first ascent. There is also some big news in trad climbing to talk about. Didier Bertad has sent Cobra Crack 514 trad. Bertad's history and story with this ascent is quite remarkable. He first attempted this crack in 2005, but shortly afterwards went away to reside in a Swiss monastery for over a decade. And now, nearly 20 years later, he has sent his project. Of course, there's more to the story than just that. I will link to a great article from climbing.com in case you're interested in learning more. As for what Didier had to say on Instagram, I don't know if it's a chapter closing or a chapter opening, but what is certain is that what I experienced yesterday will mark a major turning point in the course of my existence. I finally sent Cobra Crack. After many trials and doubts of all kinds, but yesterday it went, and this day will remain engraved forever in my history. Never stop dreaming big against all odds. And our final topic today is the two-part Olympic qualifier series. Part 1 of which was held in Shanghai recently, and part 2 that's upcoming in Budapest the 20th through the 23rd of June. For athletes who have not yet qualified for the Paris 2024 Games, this is their big opportunity. I had previously noted that in the Boulder/lead event, the top 10 men and top 10 women at the end of this two-part series will be eligible for an Olympic ticket. In practice, we will see up to 12 men and 12 women qualify due to some specific rules about host and universality quota places. In part 1 of the series, Brooke Rabbitou came out on top, followed by Chae-Yun Seo and Erin McNeese. Brooke dominated in the bouldering section of the final, over 20 points ahead of any other competitor. And though her lead performance wasn't at the top of the field, it was still a solid performance that was more than enough for her to take first place overall. This then gives Brooke a full 50 points, the most possible in each part of this series, setting her up very well going into Budapest. I will link to this list of all the female competitors and the amount of points that they have been awarded based on their placement in Shanghai. On the men's side, Doyan Lee took first place, followed by Alberto Yunis Lopez and Adam Ondra. The results were interesting because the top two competitors, Lee and Lopez, scored the majority of their points on the lead side by topping the route, which was worth 100 points. Whereas Ondra had a more even split, scoring 64 in Boulder, the top of the field, but only 60.1 points in lead. Of course, I was pretty excited to see Ondra perform so well overall though, and position himself that much closer to a second Olympics. I will link to this men's list as well. You may want to give it a look because there were a variety of well-known climbers competing. Stefano Ghisolfi, for example, who finished in 19th place overall, securing 22 points going into part 2 of the series. Or Mikhail Moem, the 2022 Olympian, who unfortunately had a disappointing performance, finishing near the bottom of the pack. Now we await part 2 of the series upcoming in Budapest, which means in just a few weeks, we should have a pretty good idea of the entire field of athletes who will be competing at the Paris 2024 Games. Which piece of climbing news inspired you the most today? Let me know in the comments. And hey, my name is August. Thank you so much for watching.